The much anticipated Budget 2022 is round the corner and the Finance Minister is preparing the way to present the third budget amid a global health crisis. Expectations have risen and challenges have increased. While large corporations have rationalized costs, the global health crisis has had a significant impact on SMEs across sectors. We spoke to industry experts from the plastics and the petrochemicals industry to better understand their priorities as well as the government's push for a greener budget for India.
We are very hopeful for this budget because we have tried to inform the Ministry of Commerce and the Department of Revenue that the processors are working on a razor thin margin in the current situation, and their profit margins must improve if we would like the capacity of plastic processing to grow in the country. Our honorable CIM, he wants us to achieve nearly 5 times the export in the next 5 years. So that can be only possible if the MSME grows. If the MSME starts exporting in a large way, so then only it is possible. So presently the situation is that the import duty on polymers are high and the import duty on the value added products are very low. So we have been requesting the ministry to raise the import duty on the value added plastics. We are very hopeful that in this budget, they will either increase the import duty on value added plastics or they may reduce the import duty on polymers. But the more likely situation is that the import duty on value added plastics should increase.
We are looking at 4 things that government should really evaluate and see whether they want to bring in this budget or through other schemes. The first is, India is building up as a very good, I would say, capabilities in terms of polymer processing. We see more and more companies thriving in this sector. In fact, government had earlier taken measures to make sure that toys manufacturing also happen in India. So what we are seeing is that whether it is films, whether it is injection molded, thermoform components, blow molding, all these industries are growing very well, and India does have a potential to export these to all over the world, just the way China has done all these years. However, what is lacking in India's approach is the polymer production itself. SEZs, when government brought this RODTEP scheme, replacing MEIS, first is it took a lot of time. There is still a period where the government has yet to issue the refunds. But more critical is that SEZs have been still not been included in this scheme. We have to understand that SEZs also pay a lot of taxes, especially when it comes to oil and some of its derivatives. Therefore, to put them on a balanced ground, it's critical that SEZs should also be provided that RODTP benefit as such. The third thing is another anomaly that we find in the country versus some of the other developed parts of the world. Many developed parts of the world give GST benefit or indirect tax credit virtually in everything that a business uses. In India, one is oil, which is again quite a debated subject, where indirect tax benefits are not given, but we can understand that government is using it to manage the fiscal deficit. However, the bigger part which government must look at is also the buildings, especially the factory buildings, where the ITC credit is still not given. And if you typically see any project, factory buildings or the overall buildings comprise anywhere between 10 to 25% of the total project cost. And especially for MSMEs, who has to certainly put buildings first, and therefore there's a lot of investment which goes there. ITC credit must be deployed. For larger companies, their plant and machinery investment is still much larger part, but MSME and small companies, this is something which must be provided for. The fourth thing that we feel, which is again very critical, one side, the government is saying that top 500 companies need to professionalize more, need to bring, non-related to the promoter, either as a chairman or as a managing director, which is a very good move. Obviously, there is a lot of debate on this. Many industries or many listed companies are still not ready for it, and therefore there is a request to defer another 2 years. Earlier, this law was supposed to come in 20, then it got deferred to 22.
Later.
There's still a discussion whether it should be deferred further by another 2 years. So that is one side of it. But largely speaking, it does make sense to professionalize larger companies.
The demand from our side is that as on today, we are importing around 45,000 crore rupees worth of finished products, which can easily be made in India. So we have proposed to the government of India to increase the import duty on the finished products, so that there is a resistance and there is a market created for our Indian manufacturers. Secondly, there should be no anti-dumping duty or non-tariff barriers, so that the raw materials and the machinery is available to our Indian plastic industry for the processors to take advantage.
The processes of PVC products, it may be films, calendering films, soft films, people into making pipes, etc., have a very unfair advantage as compared to our competitors in China for two specific reasons. One is that import duty on PVC is 10% as compared to other polyolefins, which are at 7.5%, and PET resins, which are at 5%. The import duty on the finished goods is also 10%. Either it is a PET product or a PVC product or a PP product. So that is first reason why we have an unfair advantage. Secondly, further, in India, there is anti-dumping duty for which the premiums in India are very high. So this, as compared to my competitor, let's say in China or any other country who does not have any anti-dumping duty, so the processors in those countries are dumping material in India, and we are at a very unfair advantage.
As we move forward in 2022, what remains challenging is the push required to scale up the biggest contributors of India's economic growth, the SMEs. For more stories on the plastics and petrochemicals sector, stay tuned to Polymer Update. I am Pratiksha Jaipal. Many thanks for watching.